All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of season 5 of the Part-Time CEO Diaries. In case you haven't seen from our new podcast cover, the podcast has rebranded and we are now moving from the Freedom Filled Life podcast to the Part-Time CEO Diaries. For this particular episode, Shay and I kind of goes into, as part of the rebrand, wanting to try a new style of conversation and just also let you guys in more into the conversations that we're having behind the scenes. And of course, it all relates to business. As you know, Shay and I are still business girlies, and there's a lot of conversations we've been having behind the scenes with our clients, our mastermind clients and Scale Up Purpose Mastermind, and also our members inside of She's Fully Booked. And some of those, of course, relate to business, but I feel like they also relate to personal seasons in life and how that also correlates to the season of business that you're in. And Shay, we have now been in business, I think, 12 years, which is mind-blowing to even say. So we have, of course, navigating so many different seasons of business. And for this particular episode, really kind of talking about what season we're coming from, because we have been pretty quiet when it comes to marketing and just really focused behind the scenes. So kind of sharing, letting you guys in around what season we're coming in business, and then sort of what chapter, what season we're in right now in March of 2026. And kind of like what that's looking like for us, for our business, what we're prioritizing and wanting to focus on this year. And of course, giving you advice to help navigate what season of business that you're in, depending on, where you're at in life. That could be a growth season, or maybe it's a maintenance season. Lots of different chapters that we'll probably discuss here. So hopefully you feel seen, walking away with some clarity or direction, and just knowing that there are many different seasons of business, just like there are in life. And so wherever you're kind of tuning into today, I feel like you'll walk away with, I don't know, a little bit of feeling like we've been in this with you, and you have some clarity and direction for your path forward. So diving into the convo, Shay, I would love if you could kind of just kick us off, and maybe let's start with what season, I guess, from your perspective, of course, because we have our own personal seasons, and of course we navigate the business together. But what season of business do you feel like we're coming from? And I guess it's probably 2025 when I really think about it. Feel free to go further back if you want to, but just curious, from your perspective, what season do you feel like we're coming from in the business, and I guess personally too?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like 2025 is more than enough place to start, because it feels the most relevant for, moving from one season to the next. I feel like we've been in a certain season for a period of time, and then now this feels like, which could be fire horse energy as well. But I feel like the reason we're talking about this is because we're moving into a new season. Conversations we're having with our clients, it feels like there's a different energy. It feels like there is a shift of seasons, if that, so to speak, and I feel like I hadn't felt that for a couple of years. And I think it was building. I think there was lots of building and foundation work, and on myself, on the business, on different things. And now we're moving into a more visibility season. And then just to speak to, I'll talk more about that in a second, but also to speak to what you were saying around just how personal and business is intertwined. This is one of the reasons we named it the Part-Time CEO Diaries. And we love this term because we are really focused on building a business that fits within our lifestyle while still being able to serve really well, enjoy our work, enjoy the type of clients we work with. But then also going through seasons in personal life, in business, it all relates to just making sure we have a well-balanced approach to both life and business. And that's kind of where the origin behind that, it's a term we've been using. For those of our clients who are listening to us today, they know this is a term that we have been heavily utilizing inside of both she's fully booked, as well as Scale with Purpose. And Scale with Purpose Mastermind, I think, is where we really focus on this. We just finished our quarterly calls with our clients in that program. And it is about, okay, what is last year's season? What is last quarter's season? What are we looking for coming up? So just wanted to mention that, how they like work and correlate together. But I'd say for me, well, let me just start with like a fun personal update for those of you listening who have possibly heard me mention applying for a visa so that I could permanently live and work in the US, which I haven't had a long-term visa prior, because as you know, we've traveled the world, we lived in other places. I was settled in Canada for a bit. And I decided last year to pursue this visa. I received it. I'm in Austin officially. So for me, I'm entering so many changes within my personal life. And then this call to be more seen and visible, and, maybe that more energy to show up within the business as well. So that is sort of where, if we're looking at, the original question, moving from more of a internal work season, working on myself personally, internally, stepping into a new version of the woman I want to become, thinking about this, lifestyle change, and then also really applying that to our business, where it felt more behind the scenes. We took a break from high vis platforms, and I think that was so enriching, where you can just cut the noise out and just focus on, your client work, your offers, your strategies, behind the scenes work that you want to really put foundationally into place. And I think that was an amazing season that we were in. And then this season, which I feel like a lot of our clients are feeling this too, just personally, I feel so called now to be more seen, to have that larger community touch point, share my voice. 12 years in business, I have so many things, we have so many things to share, to say, and bringing that back into more of like a public arena through our podcast, through launching new platforms like a Substack newsletter, where we get to write, a dream of mine that I know Cassie's a beautiful writer, and would love to become a writer. And so for those of you on the journey with me, like, I am moving into a season where I am really pushing myself outside my comfort zone to show up in a way, especially as a recovering perfectionist, that is very much pushing me outside my comfort zone when it comes to writing. So you'll be on that journey with me. I'm feeling, a little resistant, nervous, excited, all the feels. So I'll bring you along that journey with me. So I feel like I'm moving into that season of really being called to share my voice in multiple ways. And I hear this from our clients as well. So that's where I'm at. Cass, like, what would you want to add to that? Or, I'm curious, as I think this is what people love to hear, is like, we're two people running a business. We have a partnership, we have a friendship. And I know this is one of the number one things people want to interview us on, and our clients ask us, what does that look like? What does that partnership look like? So we have different perspectives, we have different lives. So I'd love to hear kind of what season you're coming from, and then what we're going into, and then we can talk about, the business from there.
Mm-hmm. I love that you mentioned like cutting out the noise. And obviously for anybody who's followed us for a long time, that we have been in the past highly visible on social media, mainly on Instagram. I feel like it is how we grew the business. And that was like years before, influencers, or like we didn't even call it content. And there's an entire episode from last season about, why we chose to quit Instagram, and me personally, you'll hear more about my story. But I think post that in 2025 really became like, when you cut the noise, at least for me, I feel like it became getting really, like, you get quiet, you have more time with yourself, you have more time to, like you were saying, Shay, there's inner work to do. There's also just time to like rest. And I think that was a big part of my 2025 season, coming out of seasons of burnout that, again, we have talked about in past episodes. So I don't want to dive into it too much, but like, when you get burnt out, I feel like I experienced the other side of burnout that wasn't just like turning on the faucet. It's no longer just like you wake up one day after burnout and you're just like, I'm so energized and ready to go. And someone like myself, like I am somebody who has like big visions and a lot of energy and like motivation for our business and creativity. And that's where I feel like I have thrived that's where I thrive in our business even now. And it's where I thrived in past seasons of the business. So coming out of a season of burnout, I think it was really challenging for me to navigate this season of like, I don't feel like I have this massive vision for the business. I don't feel like I am, again, this was in 2025, so not today, but I don't feel like I'm waking up with just like this excitement or drive or desire to like sit at my computer and like create new things and create new products and just like move the business forward in this really big way. And I think when I realized at first that was really challenging for me to recognize that and sit with that and be like, what does this season look like? Because I feel like I was no longer burnt out. I didn't feel burnt out. I had time. I had space. It felt like, okay, girl, you rested. Like, let's get going. Like, let's have a plan, let's have the plan. Let's have the vision. And so I navigated that for most of 2025 was just like, what does post burnout and like this new era look like for me in the business, for my vision for Bucket List Bombshells, for where we're going? And I think once I kind of recognized that, I sort of just leaned into it because as somebody who is like a visionary, I think, or in a creative person, it can be, I think, even more challenging when you have a resistance and you force yourself to create. Like, I don't create well in that way. I don't enjoy creating in that way. I want to create out of like desire and excitement. And so, to be honest, most of 2025 for me just looked like rest and healing. And that was like personal. There was a lot going on for me personally last year, just like a heavy personal season, things outside of my control that I feel like really mirrored this like season that the business was asking for with me, which was just like rest. Like, don't sit at your computer for 8 hours a day and just like try to pretend that you're being productive and getting things done, or like, you're not really creating. You're not moving this a big vision forward. You're just kind of like doing. And when I recognized that, I leaned into it. And because my personal life, I feel like was calling for me to like spend more time in it, like people around me needed me for medical reasons and family things and things that were just like way out of control. It felt like I took the extra time that I needed to be outside of my office, like away from my computer. And that was both really fulfilling when I did have time and space and I did things that I wanted to do for myself, things like, spending more time just like outside or cooking more, and say, I got really into bread baking. And so there was this really like enjoyable, fulfilling, but very simple side of just like have a 3-hour morning routine, journal, sleep in, like sleep for 10 hours if you need to, like no alarm clock. Like I don't wake up at a certain time. I just like let myself have the rest that I needed because I felt like this is just like what the business and what my personal life was asking for me every time. And I will say that as somebody who is a visionary and who is a creative person, I do think there was a thing in the back of my head that was like waiting for the other side, that's so like, okay, like when are you going to feel like you have the vision again or the creative drive again or the momentum again? And so I would say for anybody who's listening, like I think it is a challenging season to navigate if you are somebody who thrives in your business or in your life in that way, where you always feel like you have this vision for your business and for your life, and you're the one who's like moving things forward. And so I would say, just I kept thinking like, okay, like one day I'm going to guess it will come, and just trusting. And this isn't something we talked about, I don't think, in all, I'll say, but I'm a Christian. Like, I'm someone who is very faith driven. And I feel like that's a big part of my purpose and the purpose that I have in the business, and my calling to support women in the way we do in their businesses. And so it just felt like I had to have faith that like there would be another season. And I know everyone always says that. I know everyone always says, like, you know, trust the season you're in, the next one comes. Like, we see physical seasons in life and cycles. And like, I don't know why, but when you're in it, it just feels like it's never ending, and like the next season isn't going to come. But lo and behold, of course, the next season came, and it just felt like towards the end of last year, I felt like there were just like little pieces of a vision coming together, of things that I was really excited to move forward in. And going back to what you were saying, Shay, it was very much linked between my personal desires and my personal life that I feel like kind of like unlocked, and then bled into, or like then, you know, translated into the business. It just felt like these are things for me too that I feel like I had. When you come from a season of being so quiet and like cutting out the noise, I felt like that also kind of was a part of me going quiet and not wanting to be visible and add to the noise in the business. When it comes to like, you know, there's so many different ways to market your business and to reach people. And I just felt like it didn't want to be part of that noise in a season where I myself was going quiet. And so I feel like at the end of 2025 and then into 2026, it wasn't overnight, but it did feel like this big energy shift that all of a sudden was like, you're ready to use your voice again, you're ready to share and talk about things, and not from this like, I have it all together, or I have this pretty bow on things. And you know this about me, Shay, like I like when there are clean like lessons, and I like sharing things once there's been a bow tied on top. And I really think that for our clients and women in our community, and just like other women that we're friends with in the industry that also are running businesses, started to just share more authentically seasons that they're in, even if they are struggling or don't know all the answers or are navigating a transition. And this is the reality. And I think just like the beautiful journey, the part that we do really enjoy, it's not always perfect and it's not always polished, and wanting to be able to share that and show up for you guys too, because we hear a lot of this from our clients, and we support them in seasons where life feels chaotic and the business still, you know, has desires to grow, or the business feels out of control now. And so the personal life is starting to feel like it's stretched thin for time and for spaciousness and for the reason that you started the business in the first place. And these are all things that we talk about behind the scenes. We chat nonstop with each other about, and I feel like into the beginning of this year of wanting to use my voice again in that way, which is so interesting. I feel like I built the business with my voice. Like I've written in our newsletters and Monday motivation and mailers, for those of you that were around way a long time ago, we grew our audience by writing on Elite Daily. I shared my life, my personal life on Instagram, like a major tool to like share my life and share my journey. And you all followed along. And so I think it's been really interesting to be in a quiet season where I feel like I have been observing and learning and growing our business behind the scenes. Really, it's not like we have stopped what we're doing here whatsoever. It's just we stopped being visible, like highly visible around it. And I think there has been this call, like you mentioned, Shay, to just be so much more highly visible in 2026. And that has been really exciting as somebody who like I mentioned earlier, just like thrives off of having a vision and feeling connected again to my purpose, my calling, what we do here after a decade in business, and wanting to do it in an even bigger way now. And what does that look like in 2026? I think the resistance is maybe it's like riding a bike. Like if you haven't done it in a while, it kind of feels like, oh, like what does that routine look like? And what does that rhythm look like? And do I feel like I can just like jump on the bike again and just start like pedaling down the street? And so that's kind of an interesting one where I feel like it's something I've done for so long, but then not doing it for a really long or, period of our business does feel exciting, but again, a little nerve-wracking of like jumping back into sharing. And I do feel like this time that we're choosing to re-enter, I guess, for lack of a better word, there is still so much noise out there, and there is a lot of different conversations happening. And I feel like women are in our community are, in a way, you're tired of the noise, just like we are. We're tired of so much consumption, yet we are craving authenticity, and we are still craving, people to like to be where we are, and to meet us where we're at and to have real conversations. And so I think it's a really interesting kind of season to re-enter from a visibility perspective. So yeah, anyway, that's the long story long of like where I feel like I'm been coming from in 2025. Probably for those of you too, if you've been curious of like, we have been quieter. And it was very intentional. And I think, Shay, we want to only share when we feel like we have something to say. We're not somebody as if we're one person. We're not in this. It doesn't feel authentic or aligned to us to show up in a really performative way when we don't feel like we want to show up. And so I guess that's, for those of you who have been following along, what you've seen. We felt really called to just like serve behind the scenes. And like we work so closely with our clients, and that gives us so much joy and purpose. And we are so in it. And I guess for a lot of our clients too, when you get so just focused with your client work that you're not doing these other marketing or sales or visibility in a bigger way. And that's been so beautiful. And I think for 2026, to me, feels so different and like a totally different chapter, new energy that I haven't felt in like a really long time, I feel like, for the business, and also new ways to share our voice and just a new way of working, which is exciting as well too, doing things differently, which is crazy to say after 12 years. I am still experimenting with the way I work, and that feels different as well. So yeah, lots of old that we've been like letting go of. I know it was like the year of the snake, lots of shedding. I very much have felt that. And into 2026, oh my goodness, so much I feel like it's changing in such a beautiful way. Personal changes in the business, and it does kind of feel like overnight just so much growth is happening. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I was asking for this, and like here it is, and not feel so beautiful. I saw this quote on Pinterest, maybe you guys have seen it on Instagram. When you look around and you see pieces of answered prayers, I very much feel like 2026, at least the start of it, has felt like that for me. And that is like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. Yes. Oh my gosh. So many good things. I have so much to say back to you, and then like we can continue on, but or back to you and the women here with us today. One of the things that really stood out to me that I think was a big thing for me wanting to either step away or like not show up visibly was really the noise. I spend a lot of time on Instagram. I find it entertaining. I'm there. I connect with long distance friends. For those of you who are in the DMs on Buckless Bombshells, I'm the one in there. So I do spend quite a bit of time on Instagram. And I will say that I saw the rise of noise, the rise with, AI content, with the landscape changing so much after 2020. And that was amazing. There was way less barriers of entry to become a content creator, to start these type of, whether it's influencing businesses or just general digital, low ticket digital product businesses. Like, there is just so much. And I feel like at first it felt really empowering. And I was like, this is so great. And as the noise grew, as the AI content, as the quality, no offense, of this content kind of disintegrated, kind of went downhill, this is where I actually felt called to show up, because I'm like, okay, I have something to say now, because I'm seeing this stuff out here that I am like, this is not great advice. This is regurgitated ChatGPT advice, or this is coming from someone with I can't see any credibility here, or it's faceless, which, I'm not saying I am all about the money. I'm all about the Benjamins, like, get your bag, girl, like, however you want to do it, great, fine. Like, no judgment on that part, but more so as someone who is a coach and gives business advice, I'm seeing a lot of really bad advice. And so I'm just like, okay, the noise is noisy. So how do I not contribute to the noise? How do I show up in that way intentionally? Because I don't want to be a part of that, where it's just the same thing being said over and over again. No personalization, no uniqueness, no experience. Okay, I have the experience. I have something to say. I've always had something to say, regardless of if I am visible to the masses or visible to one client. Like, I have opinions, I have things to say. And so I think that it felt so intentional. I didn't have that desire. I felt like, okay, cool. And then now something has shifted. And I think some of it has to do with that, with the noise and wanting to be a voice to cut through some of that and be able to do that in a larger community again, versus just behind the scenes for our clients, or just keeping the opinions to myself, honestly. And that felt fine for a while, but it was now, because I thought, wow, I'm seeing some amazing people. They're doing it so well. Like, follow them. This is awesome. I love that. And now I'm just starting to see, in my opinion, a slippery slope of regurgitated content from an AI bot. And I think that there is, and you touched on this, I think at one point, you're so much gold about like the personal connections. And it's actually something that our community, whether it's our clients, whether it's just women who we meet or who are online or who I'm chatting with on Instagram, they want more person-to-person connection. And a lot of them want in-person connection, because then it's not a bot. You're like, yep, I see you. But more so, I think, we swung to this way of doing everything online. And I think a big shift that is coming and is already here is you're going to see and start to see more in-person connection. So to bring that to the conversation today, like, I would say that's part of our vision for you women, to have spaces, whether that's virtually, which is great, but I love doing lives. We've brought a lot more live components to the work that we do, but then also in-person components. And that's something that we have plans for that we'll share with you as we have them, but definitely plans for in-person connection. And I think that that's something, when we talk about this new season, and not just what we're craving, because it's something I'm definitely craving. Like, if anybody has joined us on a BB meetup in the past, those were just so cup-filling, overflowing, so amazing to get to meet you in person and just talk about the impact that we have on each other's lives. I feel like our community impacts me as much as I impact them. And then also to speak to one more thing in that you were talking about that kind of made me think of something. We were talking about how now we're like sharing, like, we've been doing so much behind the scenes, and then also like wanting to have a pretty bow on things. I think a different season is kind of this messy middle season, this like, hey, let me take you on the journey, the season of the in-betweens, like, how did we get somewhere? What did that look like? Peeking behind the curtain, bringing you inside our inner world in a deeper way is also something I feel like we're called to do in this new season of our business. So just like continuing the conversation around what is this new season for us. You are, as you mentioned, visionary leader of guiding what these chapters look like from our business perspective. As we come together as individuals, you really hold that. And we had our annual retreat at the end of last year, which kind of turned more into like what we were going to do for Q4. So then we ended up having another retreat. I love our founders retreats. And we did one early when I moved down to Texas. We did one early in Q1. And so from that visionary perspective, for someone who is trying to step into a new season, a new chapter, like where do you start as a visionary, like to bring that to life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that question. So yeah, I think at the end Q4, essentially in like September of last year, we were like, I love getting ahead on planning for the new year. So I always try to, set that time aside for us to do it towards the end of the year, and then just look with everything going on in personal life. It just felt like early on in Q4 was the best time that like you and I could actually like come together, because we physically come together. Shay was still in Canada. I was here in Austin, Texas. And so I went to go see Shay. It was like so much fun. We had an amazing founders retreat. I think that it very much became highly focused on priorities for Q4, because like I shared earlier, I think what season I was coming from in 2025 was just sort of like from so much rest and from so much healing. When you kind of like open the door to being a visionary again, I think a lot of things became as priorities. It was like all these things I had been wanting to do, things that you and I had been wanting to do. We had been wanting to launch some new offers and like create some things and just have some creative conversations around our marketing and like areas of opportunity. We always look at like opportunities and gaps from like a business perspective, and then that really wraps into, like what is the vision for the business. But I think that particular founders retreat was less about the vision, because there was so much that like we had wanted to do. So it felt very tactical, like here are gaps that we want to close, here are opportunities that we're seeing like right now that we want to create an offer for or work towards. So we did those things, which was amazing. And then, like you said, at the start of January, especially after the holidays and like holiday break, coming into the year of the fire horse of 2026, and just like personal transformations I feel like we've had at the start of this year kind of opened up this like, oh wait, I felt very much like I messaged you and I was like, hey, we need to have another founders retreat, because basically, FYI, last year's was for Q4. We did all those things on our list, which is amazing. And then it really felt like we had new things to talk about and just prioritize for 2026. So I feel like, to answer your question, like where to start, I always like to start with the vision, and the caveat there being, if you are in a season like I was in last year and it just felt like you don't have the vision for what's to come, maybe in the next year or in the next 5 years, let alone in the next 10 years. And that's what I mean by vision, is like, where are you going in the next, or wanting to go in the next year, 3, 5, 10 years? What are you trying to build? What are you trying to grow? What do you want to be known for? All those things. It could be a product, it could be offerings, it could be service, it could be a size of community, it could be a size, the number of clients you want to impact. It can be what you're known for. It can be so many different things. But it's like, to me, that's a vision. It's like, you don't have to create that in the next quarter or in the next 2 quarters. If down the line you want to create digital products, or down the line you want to create a community because that's been on your heart, or I don't know, you want to create a conference or retreats or whatever it is. We as visionaries hold that space for the big vision. And like, why too, going back to purpose and calling, is like, why are you doing all of this in the first place, right? Like, why did you create a business? Who are you hoping to impact and serve? And like, what does it mean to you to impact clients, and what, results that you want then to get out of the work with you, and how you want them to feel supported and seen, and your values? Like, there is such a deeper, I think, work behind vision as well. It's not just how much money you want to make and how much revenue you want to have and how much income you want to, be able to take out of the business every single month. And of course, that is part of our vision, our wealth building plan, our wealth building strategies, how, the business in growing in revenue impacts, what we're able to invest in, and also how that plays to the architecture of our personal lives and our wealth building plans there. So it all does, finances is absolutely a big facet of that. But there is this other side that I think has been really visible to me, and I know to you as well, Shay, is like this more, I think, what is being called this more like feminine approach to business. And it is not just data and conversions, and it is genuinely a place of desire and impact. And for women, I guess, like us, if you're listening, and that is a huge reason why you stepped into this business in the first place. Aside from the fact that you personally wanted more freedom, because of course, that is a big reason why we stepped into business as well. I can absolutely sit here and tell you, this is not why I continue to run a business for 12 years. It's just because I get to not have a boss. And just because I get to have, more freedom beyond just 2 weeks of vacation. That would not sustain me to still be doing what we're doing. There is a much deeper motivation, impact, calling, and purpose around what we do. And I would say most likely it's the same for you, for whoever is listening. And so the vision is married to that calling and to that purpose. It's the reason why you work all day on a Saturday sometimes, or you have shower ideas, or you want to do things that other people tell you are like beyond logical reasoning, or they're just like, you're to do those things, and you're like, it maybe you don't have experience yet, or you've never done them. They're things, you've never done, but you feel like you were called to do these things, and it's a vision that you hold. And I truly believe that like other people will understand that because it's your vision to hold. So when I do visionary work, it's tapping into that place of, and I think when you've been in business for a long time, this work becomes even more important. And we have clients who are navigating seasons like this too. In the earlier years of your business, I think it's easier to feel really attached to that purpose, that drive, that calling. Everything feels so new. The momentum of like having spaciousness and impact and creating your own thing. And what we've seen ourselves and what some of our clients are navigating as well is this dip that kind of happens when it no longer feels the excitement of something like fresh and new. And don't think it always has to be new, but that like your calling sort of and purpose sort of starts to fade. And I think like what you were saying, Shay, like, to me, I think it starts to fade because of the noise and because we lose disconnect from our true purpose and calling and vision. And we allow outside noise. We allow things to weigh us down. We allow maybe like failures or things not going as planned or personal things in our lives. Like things just kind of start to like weigh us down. And I think that's really never the energy that we get from starting a business and the momentum that we see from women starting business. It's always just like so much opportunity, so much excitement. Of course, not everything goes as planned. And of course, there are seasons of challenges and failures, and you can overcome those. And we've had those as well. But overall, there's a sense of like excitement and drive, and you're just like, you are creating what you want to create, and you set out and you did what you wanted to do. And I think 12 years in, navigating the vision now is like, I've held a 10-year vision, and you and I have held a 10-year vision for the business in an era where our vision 12 years ago was, we want women to know that working online is possible. And we want them to know that like remote work is a possibility, and that you can have freedom outside of 9 to 5. And we accomplished that, which is incredible to sit here saying, and not just us, of course, like there are things in the world that helped speed up that process. Of course, COVID like significantly led to the increase of online businesses. And now, of course, you would never, almost never, would we meet a woman now these days and be like, wait, remote work? What's that? Working online? Wait, what's that? Oh, you work with clients on Zoom? Like all of these things that we navigated in business, and that was like our biggest driver. We have accomplished that. And so I think the vision that we now sit with in 2026, which is really exciting, is what does the vision for the next 10 years look like? And I can sit here and tell you that I have pieces of that, and I'm really excited for what's to come in 2026 and what we're planning. Whether that's 10 years down the line, I'm not sure. It's all coming together and sort of just like very organically starting to just kind of have share different lights, and kind of what you were sharing as well, Shay, is like community has been really important to us, and we want more in-person connection, and we want more visibility and more authentic conversations, which is why Substack and this podcast has become a priority. And I think like once you have the vision and you're very clear and tapped into your calling and your purpose, the rest of that becomes the tactical projects and priorities, how that fits into your offer letter and what offers are those. And then I think that kind of falls into your sales funnel. We talk a lot about this in past episodes. It becomes top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. How are you going to convert people into this amazing vision and calling that you have? And then even further down the line is like, what does that look like in Q1? What does that look like in this quarter? What does that look like in Q2? And then like, what are you prioritizing? Because I think what some of our clients struggle with, and what can be really amazing, being a visionary can also mean you get really overwhelmed. You know, if we have a 5-year, 10-year plan, it's like, where do we start? Like, what does that mean for today? What does that mean for tomorrow? What does that mean for the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? Because everything can feel important. And as we know with business, everything layers together. So it's like, I know that marketing matters because we need an audience in order to sell them into said services or programs or courses or membership. And then like, I also know that, you know, bottom of funnel matters because I need to prioritize refining these offers and making changes, or like building this course or building this offer. So it's like, should I focus on that? Or if I only focus on that and my client work, then I'm not spending time marketing and doing visibility work or nurturing work for my audience, which matters when I go to sell this thing. So it's like, that's kind of the conversation we've been in with a lot of our clients right now who are in very much a similar growth season of business. We're really excited to bring things to life in 2026. There's lots of like personal growth happening too. Women, you know, entering seasons of motherhood and moving, and just like really exciting personal life changes, and then so much excitement for like what they're bringing to life in the business. It just feels like if you've been sitting on something, things that they've wanted to do for a long time, like now has been the season they're ready to pick it up. And so we've been helping guide them and support them on how do you hold a vision and then how do you bring it to life, which Shay, you're an amazing business coach when it comes to this, because it does very much become strategy and priorities and operations. And just like we've been in business for so long now to know what does come first. And it's not always this perfect 90-day plan, but we can have focuses and we can have priorities. So anyway, it's a very long-winded, in-depth answer. How we take, or how I sit with the vision, take purpose and calling. And then just like, as you can imagine from everything I just shared, it's like, that doesn't happen in one day. Doesn't even happen in a 3-day founders retreat, even if you want it to. It just very much becomes like navigating the season business and knowing that like all of these areas need to have a vision or have clarity, and sitting with those things, sometimes gaps in them, and knowing that we want an answer. We don't have the answer yet. And knowing that there comes a time, which is now-ish for us, there comes a time where you're really ready to move. Like you have the clarity enough. I'm not saying you have to wait to have clarity to move, but I do think that for how you and I like to lead, Shay, we like to have clarity before we move, or at least start to make moves. And I think it is a beautiful part of leadership too, and wanting to lead in an authentic and aligned way. And I do very much feel like we are in that season right now where like we are moving, so much is changing, we're learning so many things, we're sharing said things, and there's a lot going on behind the scenes, which is really exciting. A lot of growth for our clients that we're supporting. We have our in-person Scale with Purpose Mastermind retreat coming up in just a few weeks in Mallorca, in Spain, a full retreat we're prepping for, just like so much exciting things. So yeah, that's kind of like, again, long-winded answer as per usual of kind of what I've been sitting with as a visionary, and probably a really great example that you guys can see of just like, I don't know, kind of all the nuance I feel like that really goes into visionary work, and doing that, I guess, in a way that feels really authentic and aligned for us, and like the journey it takes to get there. It is not a one-day business retreat or a one-day like answer a couple prompts or fill out your business plan and like you're hitting the ground running. There's been a lot of depth and nuance to it. And to be honest, I wouldn't have it any other way, because I feel like that's what makes it so exciting and enjoyable, but it has been very much a journey.
Absolutely. I think that was so helpful. And I think as coaches, we work with a lot of visionaries, because visionaries usually need help with the execution, and that is technically where I come in, which makes our partnership so beautiful as well. And I just think that was such a helpful starting off point, like what you were saying, for anybody who is I feel like everyone's feeling energy, but they're not really sure like where to place it or like where to put it. Or at least that's where I had been feeling for quite a bit. And I feel like, even to be honest, only in the past couple of weeks have I even felt this clarity or this urge to actually act on it. It was more just like, felt like this energy building, and sometimes not really knowing where to put that energy. And I find that it happens with the type of clients that we work with as well. And I think it's a lot of visionaries, or any business owner is a visionary. And sometimes when we have these big ideas and these dreams and these things we want to bring to life, it is, how do I do that? How do I execute? What are the next steps? So anyways, I think that's a great place to wrap up our conversation today. And then for anybody who is being called for this next level, this season, this vision that you have, you need support bringing that to life with strategy, with guidance, with coaching. I did want to share and invite you to apply for Scale with Purpose Mastermind. We have 3 spots available right now. And I would love for you to check out the page, check out all the details, bucketlistbombshells.com/mastermind. You can apply, and then you'll get on a call with me personally. But this is just for those of you who aren't aware of this program. It's our signature monthly group coaching program for women who are making around 70 to 80K, and they really want to hit that next level, that 6 figures more. If you've already hit 6 figures, we'll take you to multi-6 figures, and we take your vision, or we help you with our, visionary retreat guide and help you uncover your vision. If you're struggling with that, or if you are in this season of, I have energy, I want to place it somewhere, I want to do, but you're not really sure where to put it, or maybe you're stuck with, you've plateaued with getting only client referrals, or you're maxed out on time and you're like, I don't know where to go next. And you want to build that part-time CEO lifestyle. You want more time. You want your business to support you. we take a really holistic approach to coaching, and we look at all pillars of your business. So whether that's your offer letter, your marketing, your visibility, your finances, your hiring, your leadership, your mindset work, because there's two coaches, Cass and I can cover every area. We've got every area of your business covered under the pillars that we have within Scale with Purpose Mastermind. And we really help you take that vision and get you to the next level, not just financially, but also with time freedom. And that's really where that part-time CEO mentality is embodied. We really help you embody that. And then lastly, I will say, if you are being called to visibility, a lot of our strategies are around visibility, but can be a lot of things that you need in place that might be giving you that resistance to showing up, knowing where to show up, how to show up. What does that look like? Is it a platform? Is it guest podcasting? Is it partnerships? We really help you find and refine what that looks like for you. So again, we do have 3 spots available in Scale with Purpose Mastermind. You can head on over and apply, and then you and I will get on a call and we'll make sure we're the right fit. We'll share more about the program and the structure. And then inside of that program too, you are invited to our retreats, our in-person weekend events, different things like that are just curated for our Scale with Purpose clients. So I did want to put that on the radar of everybody today, just because this was such a beautiful conversation. But sometimes a conversation can spark ideas. And as an integrator, I can see the visionaries not know what to do next. And so I'm there for you. We're there for you. I want to help you execute and take that vision and bring it to life in a really fun and exciting and easeful way.
I love that. Well, I think too, to wrap up, and for anybody who's listening, like we talked about so many different seasons of business today, and I will just say too, like we didn't get to cover all of the different seasons of business. Of course, if we have clients navigating similar seasons as us, growth seasons, maintenance seasons where you do feel disconnected from your calling, seasons where you are growing so fast, you're struggling to hold all of it. Like you were saying, Shay, where do I go from here? Am I building an agency? Am I growing the agency even larger? What is my role in the business? Am I being called to create new offers? So I would just say, like, from this conversation, Shay and I are big journalers. So if you're a journaling girly too, feel free to journal on this one, or maybe on your hot girl walk, think about it. But I would love for you to think about, like, what are you being called to learn in this season of business and in life? And I think really sitting with that will help you at least understand, especially if it has kind of felt a little all over the place, or you haven't really just sat with that question and really identified, is this a growth season? Are you ready to prioritize visibility? Are you ready to push yourself out of your comfort zone? Are you ready to experiment and try new things? Or maybe you are in a maintenance season and you're like, girl, I'm just trying to get by, and I'm just trying to just do what's on my plate and, be able to be present for all these other things that are going on maybe in your life, if that's feeling really overwhelming. And I hope that just this conversation makes you feel seen and not like you shouldn't be in this season, because I feel like it's really a natural part of life and entrepreneurship. And just getting to sit and journal with that question, I also feel like can really give you permission to lean into that season. I do think that'll be a really powerful kind of inner dialogue and conversation to sit with, and hopefully some really powerful aha moments and things will come up for you, like it has very much for Shin and I as well.
Yeah, amazing. I love that wrap up. I'm such a journaler, such a journal girly as well. And I'm also going my hot girl walks. So love that. This was such a fun episode to record. I'm excited to be back. This is season 5, back regularly sharing and kind of new perspectives, new insights. It's going to look a little different on the podcast, but for those of you who are bingers and haven't listened to season 4, we do have some juicy episodes in there as well. So check those out. And if you have any thoughts, takeaways, questions, comments, as I've mentioned already, I am in on Instagram in the DMs. So you can start conversations with me there. If there's things you want to hear on the podcast, absolutely share them with me. So helpful. Or just, introduce yourself to me, and we'll be back for another episode on the Part-Time CEO Diaries. So thank you for tuning in, and I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day.